You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's NXT report for Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. I'm Rohan. Follow me on Twitter at Rohan. Subscribe to us on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Let's get into it. As usual, NXT knows how to build towards the future, and that's what they've pretty much done here so far. Next week, we're going to get a triple threat match for the North American title, and the week after that is the War Raiders getting their shot at the tag team title. So other than that, it's time to continue searching for Aleister Black's attacker. The opening montage we get, when they have the Here and Now Forever. It's the first time I've seen the new opening with Hulk Hogan doing the Andre the Giant body slam spot. So I guess that means Hulk might be back sooner than later. Very first thing we see is Nikki Cross in what looks like a basement or perhaps some sort of underground sewer, and she's talking about getting ready to play with Bianca Belair again, because Bianca didn't play fair last time. And speaking of people who didn't play well, she knows what happened. She knows. Guess we're supposed to believe that means she knows who Aleister Black's attacker is. And our opening match, it's Candice LeRae taking on Lacey Evans. Last week, Lacey confronted Candice and Johnny Gargano in the parking lot and basically accused Candice of insulting Candice and not being able to stand by her man. Opening sequence from this match is basically the two girls having a very long tie-up spot. They lock up, they force each other down to the mat, they get back up, they go to each corner, all while still maintaining the lockup. Candice forces Lacey into the corner, and Lacey runs out and basically runs her over with a shoulder block without pretty much any effort. In the middle of Lacey's offense, she has to stop and pat down her lipstick before taking Candice down into a head scissors. And while she has the head scissors, she's going to do some push-ups, because why wouldn't you? Because that's what heels do. There's a kick to the face, which sets up a chin lock on Candice by Lacey, and she pulls the hair for some extra leverage. Evans trips Candice in the corner while she's on the outside, but misses a over-the-top rope slingshot leg drop. Candice scores with an enziguri. Candice then hits a middle rope swinging downward spiral, and she gets a 2. Lacey is in the corner. She just stops and looks at Candice and, "You're a loser, just like your husband." Well, this triggers Candice, and she rushes into the corner, and she just starts clubbering Lacey like she's one of the nasty boys. The referee has to physically remove Candice. She charges back in and runs right into the women's right. And Candice does the big Nestea plunge, and she falls down backwards, doing the big timber spot. And Lacey covers her for the win at 6 minutes and 18 seconds. It seems like they really want to push the heck out of Evans, but there is such a firm gap between the title picture and everyone else that there isn't really any middle ground for these women. They're getting that right hand over as a finisher, and Evans is easy enough to hate, and she's likely going to get a title shot at a takeover sometime down the road, and I'd be fine with that. So next up, we get a video package of the triple threat title match next week for the North American Championship between Ricochet, Pete Dunne, and Adam Cole. Ricochet cares because it's his, Cole wants it because it's proof that he's the future, and Dunne wants to prove that even further that he is the best in the world and can be the champion of 2 continents. We get a homemade backstage video of Tommaso Ciampa basically talking about everyone is trying to chop you down, they're trying to speculate and lie and steal your spotlight. Perhaps it's time that they cover their own tracks and hide their own guilt, and that's what Velveteen Dream is doing. Dream is living in a dream world where Ciampa attacked Aleister Black, but they both know what Black experienced. Maybe he should keep his theories to himself, because Ciampa will turn the dream into a nightmare. So Ciampa versus Velveteen Dream somewhere down the road sounds oddly fascinating. Quick squash match, 6-man, the Forgotten Sons taking on 3 dorks. I don't even remember what their names were. I don't think they were even acknowledged by Morrow. One of the dorks gets tied up in the Tree of Woe. Cutler comes running in with a running drop kick. Riker then hip tosses Blake into a cannonball in the corner on this poor guy. They let the geeks do a hot tag. One of them comes in on Riker, tries a clothesline. Riker just stands there. He returns the favor by clotheslining this dork out of his boots. They hit the second rope double stomp / reverse DDT combo move. This move really needs a name. They need to come up with a name for this move. And then Riker comes in and finishes off Team Dork with a slingshot powerbomb. They get the win at 2 minutes and 28 seconds, exactly the kind of squash that it needed to be. We take a look back at the Shayna Baszler versus Kairi Sane feud being set up for Evolution. Baszler's been going back to the basics, which means probably a lot more MMA style training. Tony Nese being interviewed in the back, and he said that him and his abs will take over NXT just like they did 205 Live. Bianca Belair doesn't want to play with Nikki Cross. She'll embarrass Nikki. Instead, she repeats that she's undefeated over and over again. Johnny Gargano taking on Tony Nese. They fight over a wrist lock to start until Nese runs him over with a shoulder. A running Hurricane Rana sends Nese to the floor, but the suicide dive is broken up with a hard clothesline. Nese misses a charge in the corner, so Gargano rolls him up, followed by the rolling kick to the head. Now the suicide dive hits, as Gargano is looking more confident than he has been in quite a while. Nese suplexes him down for 2 and locks on a body scissors. Gargano leans back for a roll-up, but can't break the hold. Gargano fights up and hits the slingshot DDT, followed by the slingshot spear. Some kicks to the head has Nese in trouble, and he rolls out of the Gargano escape. He hits a buckle bomb, right back in trouble, and Nese dumps him to the floor. A second slingshot DDT attempt is countered into a backdrop for a nasty crash to the floor, setting up the big Fosbury flop. Back in, Nese hits a great-looking 450 for a 2, followed by a sick-looking German suplex into the corner. The running knee is blocked by a super kick. Johnny slaps on the Gargano escape, and Nese taps out at 9 minutes and 43 seconds. This was a fun match. When Gargano's on his game, he can have some of the best matches on the entire brand, as we've seen throughout this past year. Gargano looks like his old self, and that should mean there should be a big match for him coming up at TakeOver. I don't think he has to go for the title right away, but one day he's going to get his hands on that title, and it's going to be the biggest reaction that NXT has ever given. It's time for our main event. It's Lars Sullivan taking on EC3. EC3 gets aggressive to start and goes right at Sullivan, only to be taken down to the floor by a choke. Ramming Lars into the steps finally puts Lars down, and EC3 starts hammering away on Lars's big bald dome. There's a whip into the corner, sends Sullivan's shoulder first into the post, and a slam puts the big man down again. Sullivan finally gets going with some shoulders in the corner, and those heavy cross-face shots to the jaw. Lars slaps on a big neck crank, but EC3 fights up and manages a suplex. He hits a not great looking high cross body. That gets a 2 count on Sullivan, who comes right back up with a giant clothesline. The freak accident is broken up, and EC3 hits a running cactus clothesline to the floor. EC3 makes the mistake of charging at Sullivan, and then I just got a text message, so I'll get that in a second. And Sullivan hits the freak accident on the ring apron, throws him back into the ring, hits the diving headbutt, and finishes EC3 off at 6 minutes and 45 seconds. They did this the right way by keeping things moving but not letting it go on too long. The point here was EC3 chopping down the big tree as well he could, but Sullivan was just too much for him. That's a good story, and the match was entertaining as a result, and I'm not sure what EC3 can get out of NXT anymore, as he pretty much has everything he needs to be on the main roster. Give him a win, let him go up, hopefully as a heel, like it should be. What I like most about NXT is that the amount of mileage they can get out of any given match or story. They're still talking about the ladder match from New Orleans and the Aleister Black injury, which kind of dropped into their lap, although that is one storyline I wish they would give a little bit more closure on, but I don't think they know how it's going to end, so why should we, how should we know what they're going to be doing? Ciampa versus Dream, it's an interesting story. I don't know if that's one for a takeover. I think that's more of a TV match. And the other major story is basically it's the Undisputed Era versus everybody else. The show itself was good with two pretty strong matches and more setting the table for the bigger stuff down the line. Next week's triple threat match has the makings of a classic, and with War Games coming up next month, it's more good forecasting for NXT. So that's going to do it this week for NXT. Thanks very much. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up because we're awesome. And give us a 5-star rating on iTunes because we're also awesome. And thanks very much, and we'll talk to you later on.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.